Owen, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. I just replaced the pin there. Going to make you a co-host.
I'm gonna say hello.
So,
We got people.
my talk is kind of like designed for non-designers, but I see a lot of very experienced people
Picture
here.
on mute. I'm not on mute. Hello, everyone.
Hey guys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is the support team going up.
Thank you for all your help, guys and girls out there. All right.
So I was saying, my talk was titled five design ideas for non-designers, but I see a lot of experienced people here. So, do you want me to do that talk? Or
Absolutely. Well, remember, most people are going to see this asynchronously, so we're doing that talk for them and for all the other attendees who will get these links as they, come in and out of the conference, and we get emails from the conference. So I think that's a great way to continue. And just a little introduction, of course. Owen owns a design firm in England called Square Balloon. I interviewed him on my podcast over a watchable podcast over COVID. So that's where I met him. Steve Burge introduced us. And I'm really happy that he agreed to come on and talk about design, which is a little teaser for his talk tomorrow, which is much more in-depth on design, I believe. So welcome, Owen. Take it away.
I'll share my screen if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to talk you through. I wouldn't call myself an expert designer, so there's plenty of other designers out there that are better than me. So I'm going to start by saying that this isn't an authoritative talk, but here's some things I come across which I think would help people with design. So we'll go to the next screen. So yeah, first of all, I guess we should thank all of our sponsors. So Watchful, whose booth we're in, and all the other guys you can see there. We'd probably not be able to run this without sponsors, so thanks to everyone who sponsored. And I was going to take some votes throughout this. So my first question, and you can just write this in the chat to be honest with you, is design a principle? Some people are just good at it, like it's a natural ability. So if anyone wants to just chuck in the chat whether they think that is a true statement or not.
Design is something people are just good at. Is that true or false? Okay.
Yeah. Because I hear a lot of people say, yeah, design, you're either good at it or you're not good at it. And I do understand people have a natural ability, but I guess there's no point in being at this talk if you don't feel I can teach you something, right? So I guess the other thing is, can you teach design? And the thing is, they do teach design. They teach it at universities, so you must be able to teach design. Because I used to work in a bank, and someone came in and said they were doing a design university course, and I said to them, you can teach that stuff? And they went, yeah, you can. And then obviously I moved into industry and didn't know much about design and got taught it. So you can teach design. And if you can't, I don't know why you're at this talk or watching this video, because I'm about to try and teach you this.
It's mostly my friends. It's just mostly my friends. You can talk about anything you like. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I think we probably all have to accept that you can teach design, although some people are obviously naturally better at it. So I'll talk a bit tomorrow about what makes people naturally better. But first of all, here's some design tips for today. So the first one is don't make me work. And that is the user, basically. It's really easy to, what non-designers will do is they'll get a template and they'll try and fit everything into the template. And they're just going to, whatever's there already, they're going to put stuff in that place. Might not be the right place for the customer to find stuff. So the way to solve this problem is to do wireframes before you start. So what you do is you go away and you put things in a logical order. So the first thing to do is ask, what are the most important goals for this page to achieve? And then once you've written them all on a bit of paper or something, then you put them in priority order. So here's like a list of things that I came up with, which might be your goals for a homepage. So tell people who you are would probably be quite important. Show people your logo. Okay, that's probably important. But what I find is that clients will say, let's make the logo bigger, let's make the logo bigger. But actually, probably more important is to tell people what you do. So perhaps that isn't the number one priority. Talking technical jargon and anagrams is obviously not always the best idea unless it's very industry specific to a niche. Try and work out what questions they have when they arrive on this page and try and answer them. Don't tuck them away in an FAQs page, put them front and center, because when people come on a website, they're going to have 3 tabs open, 3 different websites. And the one that answers the questions without them having to call up and ask the question will probably be more likely to get the work. So have a think about these type of things, talking about your brand, your company beginnings. Is that the most important thing? Should that be first or should that be last? And just give these like a number and put them in order. And once you've done that, you should have a good idea of what is the most important goals of that page. And then you can start wireframing your idea. And so when I say wireframing, I don't mean a mock-up. So wireframes are not mock-ups in my opinion, and then the way I'm using the term. I would not use colors. I would not use a logo. I would just use the word logo. I wouldn't use pictures. I would just put a square with the word picture or something. I probably wouldn't put content. I might put lorem ipsum, or I might put a short description of this type of content's going here. And I would have a reason why I put things in a certain place. So the reason being, this was number one as our priority of the most important goal of the page. So I'm putting this at the top. And then I would do things like, give examples of why I've done things. So we found putting contact forms at the top of the page works really well. It won't be for all industries and all websites. We found on all the tests we've done that the contact form being straight away is a good converter. And we get a lot of kickback on it. People saying, oh, we have to explain what we do first before we give them that. But we haven't found that to be true. So we normally put full explanation next to a contact form, what you do, why you do it, why you should use you, why you're unique, why they shouldn't use a competitor. And then right next to the contact form, we would always put like social proof, so reviews or your accreditations and stuff. So to show you what a wireframe might look like, this is one that I did before. And as you can see, it's just grey squares with text in it explaining what's going to go there. So it hasn't got any design detail in it at all. And the idea is that this can be really quick and structured and help you to think about what goes where. And then by doing it that way, you're more likely to get things in the right place, right priority, than following a template where you're thinking, okay, I see the design and I'm going to try and make something fit in that design. So if there's something there already which says, I don't know, the mission statement, you'll probably put a mission statement there. You'll be guided by the design that exists. Whereas doing it this way around, you kind of think about it a bit more and you're more likely to get better conversions and happier customers. And you can justify your design decisions and tell your customers why you've done it. And they're more likely to buy into you. So the next one is simplify your idea. And what I find with new designers, and I made this mistake loads of times myself, I had a business partner who used to always say, stop trying to do every trick in the book that you know. Just simplify your idea. If you're using a template, I know you want to make the design your own. Everyone does. Everyone wants to feel like they designed it. But you paid for a really good template. It's been designed nicely. Perhaps don't try and change it too much. Let the design do its work. So yeah, I think that's kind of. Did I do it in time or?
Well, you've got 10 more minutes, so you don't need to start now.
Should I start my other presentation? I probably could because that's too long. I need to cut it. So.
No, not at all. I'd love to have more of a discussion with you more about design if you're amenable.
Or I could do a screen share and show you some of the things that I do. I normally make like a review video for my customers. In my proposals, I actually put the video inside it. So I could show you something like that. Or if guys have questions, yeah, let's have a discussion.
So there's no questions jumping in, but I did have a few. Can you turn off your screen share for a second? And then we can have a little chat and see everyone who's in there. And I just want to invite everyone in to ask some questions if they did. But I certainly had some questions to start with. So, and please, if you have other questions, jump in or put them in the chat. What do you think about the difference between, user design and user experience? Are those actually two different things?
Yeah, I guess I would see them as different things. Because I work with designers who make things look really nice, but they don't really think about, that's their job. They've been designing for like print design normally for a long time, and you don't necessarily think about user experience in print design. And there's no easy way to measure it. Whereas in websites, you really can do A/B tests and measure things, do screen recordings and see where people are struggling, especially in like e-commerce and stuff like that. If you want to find out how to maximize your conversions. So I think user experience is really, really important. It's not something I'm an expert in, but definitely see it as different to design.
How would you define the difference between UX versus UI?
I would define it as kind of like the wireframe thing. So kind of putting things in the right place. as well as how is the system usable and functional. So if people are trying to put something in the cart and it doesn't work, that's obviously a big UX problem.
Right.
But it might not be a design problem. It might look lovely.
Yeah. Right. It's just you can only go so far.
Yeah. So I think there is a crossover, but UX is, I'd say, more about monitoring. And I spoke to a UX designer, and I said, like, how many people need to test this? Like 100? And he said, no, you need like 10, and the first 5 will tell you all the problems with the website.
Right. And there are services you can pay for where the real users will come and try and use your site, and it's actually quite affordable if I'm not mistaken. And you can just say, I want X number of people to give me a live view of what they're doing. You see their heat maps, but if I'm not mistaken, there's a video of them going through the site, talking their way through it, and just from their comments pretty quickly, you can usually hear like, oh, I didn't expect this button to be here. It doesn't make sense because I'm on this page, but this is for something different, right?
Yeah. There's loads of great tools out there now. I'm not an expert in that, so I haven't really used them, but for sure, that feedback is absolutely invaluable. Even if you don't want to use one of those tools and you've got a specific niche of people that you want to work with, sometimes just offering them like a little bit of money to please will you help me? I'm going to give you 50 quid Amazon voucher or something.
Yeah, services like Fiverr are very helpful for those kinds of things where it's, hey, I need 10 minutes of your time, jump in here and, $10, $20, $50, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
For low budget websites, I don't know if you still build those. Mike Demo was on here an hour ago talking about commoditizing websites and selling, $500 brochure sites, as a kind of a one-off commodity, productizing websites basically. And so he was talking about freelancers who might want to make the jump to, employees trying to make the jump to full-time freelancer. So in that advice, if you're making, a really inexpensive website, do you have time to go through all these wireframings? It's probably not, right? You're not paid enough to do that.
I probably say no, but I wasn't at Mike's talk, but I'm guessing that I spoke to a web designer before, and he wasn't the best web designer to be honest with you, but he had his idea of his business model was going to be, I'm going to build a really good electrician's website, and I'm just going to resell that to electricians. And he wasn't bothered about changing it so much. He was going to change the logo, maybe some colors, but he wasn't doing a lot of work. So in that sense, you can sort of productize and commoditize the design part of it, and you're just making simple changes. In which case, you could probably do some A/B testing on one of them and apply it to all of them, and give a lot of value to a lot of people.
Right.
And then just keep testing and keep making the changes to all of them, or testing different ways on different ones. And if you had them on a monthly retainer, they could all get a lot of value and better conversion rates with you not doing tons of the design work or whatever.
How do you deal? I mean, you brought up a good example. A customer says, "Oh, I wanted this logo to be this color or 10 pixels bigger." Or how do you normally address those kinds of questions? You go back to the goals usually.
Because I'm kind of trying to get sign off at each point. So if I say to them, "What do you think the goals of the page are?" and "What do we think the goals are?" and "What problems are you solving with this service or product on this page?" and they'll tell us all of the it's features versus benefits, right? So they'll tell us all the features of what they do, and then we'll try and bring them back to the benefits. And look, you're saying you do this, so really you're solving this problem for the customer. If we talk about that problem, they're going to say, "Yeah, we have that problem." And then when it comes to like, "Hey, we want the logo to be taking up the whole page," we can say, "Look, it's really important that the customer sees really quickly this information. So, okay, we don't mind the logo being visible, but we don't really want it to be pushing all of this off the screen." And then we show them like, this is how it looks on a laptop with a smaller screen. A lot more is pushed off. So although you're looking at it on a big screen, it's not always that good.
When you're
Sometimes we just have to back down.
sometimes the customer's paying the bill and you do what they say, right? Do you ever use? Do you have a screening process when you're kind of qualifying leads where you might identify someone who is going to be really firm and insistent on some really, let's say, inefficient design choices that you would say, I just can't do that as a web builder, and you just kind of disqualify that lead before you get started? Is any red flags that you have for us?
Yeah, you kind of get like, I guess I don't really know. I would just say a gut feeling that I get from those sort of customers when they want to be involved in, like a lot of customers want to be involved in the design. They want to feel like they had a say in it and they had a choice in it. And someone will say, "Will you design me 3 designs and I can pick one?" And I just say, "No, we don't do that. Maybe we used to back in the day, but we just wouldn't anymore."
Right.
And the reason is because we're going to go through this process and try and get it right first time. Um, so yeah, I guess normally those customers you would probably know based on budget. I kind of find that's the common thing. If they have a low budget, they also feel like they need to be really involved and control everything. And I try and avoid that by just sort of getting, verbal buy-in up front. But do you accept that I've been doing this 13 years? I'm good at my job. Are you going to let me do it? Do you accept my designer's been designing for 20 years? He's going to make good design decisions. And the other thing, which is always extremely painful, is when you get to the end of the job and they say, "Right, I'm just going to go and show my wife." Oh, great. So here's a tip. If you're a non-designer and you've done a design and you want to get opinions from people, ask those people what their qualifications are. Because when you ask people to give you feedback, some people will just be nice. So they'll just say, "Yeah, it looks great," even if it looks terrible.
Yeah.
And some people will feel like they're obliged to give you some feedback, even if they're not really qualified to. So they'll say, "Oh, well, if it was me, I would do this and this and this." And then suddenly you're listening to 10 different opinions and none of them are really qualified. And the one you end up listening to is the loudest one. And then you come back to me, the designer with all the experience. And what happens is you're telling me, "Oh, yeah, but Dave down the road, he's really got this great opinion." And you kind of have to manage that. But the way to solve that, in my opinion, is ask up front. Look, are you going to take this away at the end? Are you going to show your wife, your friends, your family, your colleagues? Who are you going to show? Because I want them in the first meeting agreeing to the goals that we're setting for what makes this successful.
So I think one of the questions that we would have on an intake form is who the decision maker is, who has the last say. And so that make sure that person's in the room when you're making these decisions, especially at an early stage.
Yeah. So for bigger businesses, that will be a perfectly adequate question. For smaller businesses, don't think anybody would write down "my wife is the decision maker." Because she's not part of the business, but at the end of it, they're going to ask for her opinion. So sometimes just by saying, "At the end of this, you're not a designer. Are you going to be able to make a decision to sign this off? Or are you going to ask your opinions of your friends and family? If you are, please can they all be here and agree with the goals we set?" Because they won't be privy to the conversations we've had
Right.
and the goals we've set and the reason we made these decisions. They'll just get to look at something and say, "Oh, I would change that. I would paint that blue. I'd do this,"
I'm quite sure my partner's going to be watching this video later. So just for the record, she is 100% the decision maker. So I'm just going to put that. But you've worded it properly for that, for your audience, in this case, the smaller business, right? So who is going to be making judgments on this? That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, I think once a business gets to a certain size, they would have people in the business who are making decisions, and those guys are more likely to ask a colleague than a family member. So that's less risky because they're all pulling in the same direction and understand the business.
Do you ever offer like A/B testing as a way to mitigate, what might be, in your opinion, like a bad design choice after you've launched? Oh, I want to make that button twice as big and completely orange, in a pink site, and the colors are, it's definitely not going to match. Do you ever say things like, "Hey, let's A/B test this and figure out which one gets more conversions or more hits or more bounces"? Or
I actually would be kind of totally up for that, as long as the customer doesn't mind paying for
Right.
and specifically testing it. I would be totally up for it because I really don't believe in ruling anything out based on my opinion because I've been wrong so many times. When I thought, "Oh, this is a great design choice," and it doesn't win the A/B test, and then we have to try and work out why. So I really wouldn't rule anything out completely. I would try and steer customers if I can, but when it comes to A/B testing, I don't think you should really rule anything out because just been wrong so many times.
yeah, and at the end of the day, it's who's on the site and who's there, right? And who does the test, and you don't know who that's going to be, and really until you launch and test it out. And the A/B testing can be, the cost can be quite affordable these days.
Yeah. You need to make sure you get enough data. So
Right.
if they're not prepared to pay for people to test it and they're just going to use their own traffic and they don't have enough of it, then it's kind of not really a valid test result, is it? So yeah. We did a test before where we tested like the contact form at the bottom of the page, and we had I think we had address and contact information and the contact form, and then we switched them, and we found the one on the left actually converted a bit better than the one on the right. It was only on one website. It's not a very good test in terms of real data, but that sort of thing I found quite interesting.
Sure. Oh, and that's fantastic. This is the end of our official time, and so if anyone here is looking to jump out for something else, please feel free. But I also just wanted to open it up, and I'm going to unpin you just for that reason. Only that reason. Let me make that clear. And so that if folks just wanted to have I think I removed the pin. I'm not positive. If folks just wanted to have a chat about anything they like, I'm happy to shoot the BS a little bit.